Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. We're counting down to the much talked about 2019 general elections, and it's 38 days. Of course, INEC has now formally presented the National Register of voters to the 91 political parties in the country. We're also told that there are about, as a matter of fact, over 84 million registered voters in this election. That's some 15 million more than what we had in the previous one in 2015. INEC also said that about 8 million PVCs are yet to be collected. Now, if you look at that relative to the 84 million registered voters, that's just roughly 10% of the total number. But relative to the increase of 15 million, it's a huge number. And except something significant happens, we might still witness some level of voter apathy we've seen in previous times. The umpire, however, appears to have given us the impression that it is in time, rather on time, in its timetable ahead of the election. As a matter of fact, INEC says that what it did yesterday was the 9th out of 14 activities on INEC's timetable and schedule of activities of the elections. Today on the program, we're looking at the progress made and, of course, the processes of the umpire ahead of the election. Let me introduce my guest to you very quickly. Mr. Wale Ogunade is a lawyer and president Voters Awareness Initiatives. Good morning, and it's really beautiful to see you here again.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Glad
to have you come. Curtis Adigba is a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Happy New Year to you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so sometime in August last year, INEC registered 23 new political parties, bringing the total number to 91. According to INEC, it actually received a total of 144 applications from political associations seeking to be parties. Now, let's begin with the humongous task ahead of INEC, having 91 parties on the ballot paper. Do you consider that to be a huge challenge in this election? Let me begin with you.
I think it is a huge challenge. I mean, when you look at the length of the voting materials that will be deployed for the purpose of this election, because you're going to have people, sorry I have cold, so I mean, my voice is a bit coarse.
No problem.
Because you're going to have people who, if they are not on the ballot, they will go to court to challenge, even when it is clear that they are not seriously on ground and they probably don't have what it takes to win the election. And so I think it's a challenge. And that is why there are some aspects of our democracy that we need to take a look at by introducing clear-cut measures and conditions which political parties must fulfill before they can get on the ballot.
You think the number of parties we have are not necessary?
No, I think there are too many. There are too many for easy management for electoral purposes. And I don't think we need up to 91 political parties, especially when these parties are not driven by clear-cut ideas as to what they want to do.
Mr. Guade, in previous elections, we have seen, counting and collation enter into the dead of the night. We're in for a big one this time, especially at a time where INEC is saying that it is only going to have a pilot electronic transmission of results and collation, and that it cannot go full-blown if it is not passed into law. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, let me just quickly add flesh to what my brother just said here some few seconds ago. And of course, what we want INEC, we've been promoting that, and I hope this time around, unfortunately it's late for this 2019 election. In subsequent elections, we have staggered elections, governorship, by-elections, and so on. They can use that to test ground, or even, just as it was going, introduce rules and regulation that if you are not able to win so number of votes in a particular area, obviously you cannot contest for a level. Maybe if you can't win this, even for a councillor, there are some people who cannot win any, they can't even win 1% in a state, not to talk of 2/3 or so, in a state, and they're on the ballot for the presidential. So once these people are pruned down, it reduces, because now we go to where you are going, your question. During the last election, or even the Osun election, we saw the stress we went through in waiting for the number of, for the votes to be counted.
Well, INEC said that he was going to, try out the electronic transmission.
Yes, I'm going to that. I'm going there. Because of all these challenges, it was difficult to now even go to that level. because of the bogus number of candidates who, to all intents and purposes, were pretenders. But then, the whole issue is that, yeah, the Constitution guarantees that, yeah, there are freedom of association, the number, the more the merrier, and co, but that is not the issue. The issue is that, even in advanced democracies, we don't have this number of political parties. That is one. The level of the people. Because most of the void votes are as a result of the process of voiding. Your hand is already you have already touched the indelible ink, and you now want to fold. And these things are things that we see. And when they are folding, of course, it will unfortunately maybe be smeared on another part of the ballot box. That's the another party itself, and that makes that vote to be void. So the whole essence is that there are two things to be done here. The issue of increased voter education, then, of course, looking at how to reduce
the number of participating political parties
on
the ballot, precisely. All right, let's see what's happening with the card readers. INEC says it's worked on it this time. Some kind of an upgrade, a better fingerprint matching algorithm, more secure platforms, broader fingerprint scanner, better battery compartment. How do you think the card readers have improved in recent elections, especially Osun and Ekiti?
I think they did better than we had in 2015. As we all know, the human society is progressive and it keeps evolving. You make mistakes, or you find out certain things are not working, you deal with them, and then you have a better outcome. So it is hoped that this time around they've sourced for better machines like they have promised, and we will say that when they are deployed in the election. But here's the point. We live in a country where we are challenged by so many things. Part of it is internet penetration level, electricity, and all that. These things are all part of the problem, and it will take some time to get them sorted out. But what I think is important, and we sometimes tend to underestimate the critical human factor, that no matter how good a system is, the system you've put in place, if human beings don't obey the simple rules, it's not going to work. Okay? Now, and you get that done by one, enforcement, or people willingly deciding to obey. And so, if we find out that people are deliberately going out of their way to sabotage what INEC has put in place, no matter how good or effective it is, you're still going to have a very bad outcome. And that's very important. So I think there's a need for us to do an attitude change around how we view some of these things.
It's becoming obvious by the day that the Electoral Act amendment is not likely going to see the light of the day ahead of this particular election. And one of the things that proponents of this amendment want is the full biometric use, especially electronic transmission of results, and the need not to use an incidence form. But INEC is saying here that the smart card reader, of course, INEC seems to have settled that issue that the card reader will be used for this election, and that during an accreditation, it is meant to confirm, verify, and authenticate the voter. But the issue we've had in the past is the incidence form. INEC says it has worked on that, and it has incorporated it into the voter register, such that, unlike before, where the voter doesn't have to write anything down, his fingerprint, his or her fingerprint, will now be, registered as well. How important is this for the credibility of the forthcoming election?
We're still working on it. Yesterday, I guess, INEC had a stakeholders meeting with some of our people in respect of looking at how, because there are still guidelines, they are not yet things. Before the election itself, they will now roll it out. They are in draft. So all stakeholders are involved in it. And I hope some people who have ideas too can get across to either some of us or at the INEC with their own ideas, because we must work. The electoral process is a work in progress. So one of the things we are looking at is that the issue of this incident form should not be at the discretion, sole discretion of the electoral or the polling or presiding officer or the polling officer at that point. There are election observers, there are security agents, and there are international observers too. All of them at that point can look at it that, this person who has brought his voter's card, he's not indeed on the, they can't match his identity and identification and so on. Then Can we allow him to vote? Is it possible he have voted somewhere? Does he have any trace of indelible mark, ink on his hand, and so on and so forth? He should not be left to the whims and caprices of the presiding officer there. Then, of course, now coming back to the main issue. Excuse me, since my brother has affected me too with his cough. Excuse me. Right, so we must look at, and of course, I show INEC too will sit down, listen to all these issues. We've talked about improve in technology, improve in communication, telephony, then of course, internet facility, then of course, power. If it's for them to go and get all these small generators, but again, that's where we'll look at the interacting with people. If you remember, when they were registering using this card reader then, many people brought out their generators to help them empowering it. If that's what they would do, maybe do an enlightenment program that, yeah, for now we are not able to buy, because it is very, very important that various polling booths to some extent, because of the card reader, have power, or for them to start charging the card readers from now till election day and do a test run. Right. You see, like I normally say, when we are much younger, there is what we call mock examination then that will be carried by WAEC. I'm sure maybe in the next few weeks they can consider that, maybe do a mock exam or make mock election in some designated points across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country to see how effective are the charged card readers, the lifespan of the card reader, and of course even their return time in terms of how long it will take for them to attend to people, maybe one person, and use that to know when they will open the ballot and when they will close the ballot.
The challenge in 2015 was the fact that, of course, there was PVC, but then the fact that if the machine could not read your fingerprint, you could also still vote by, getting a separate incident form. Yeah. This time around, they say each voter can now, can fill a form,
yes,
which is a modified voter register, to include the voter's fingerprint.
Yes.
These issues are post-election realities, because nobody can really validate whether it is indeed the voter's fingerprint that is being registered on that particular document.
It can be verified.
How? It cannot be verified because the machine isn't working at that time. So the fingerprint is used on the voter register, which is a paper.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say here is that that does not fix the problem at the point of voting.
Yeah, it doesn't fix the problem, but it provided a solution to disenfranchisement, which would have been the ultimate problem. Now, the purpose of election is that people go out there and make a choice. Now, for no fault of the voter, this electronic system is not working. You cannot say to the voter, go back home because the system is not working. So you provide a solution. That solution is that he fills the form and then it thumbprints. You have a sample of his thumbprint. And in your database, the biometric database, you also have a system there. So you can compare. Sorry, you can compare ultimately to find out if it was the same voter who couldn't cast a vote and fill the incident form, that thumbprinted and filled the form. And then that can be verified.
After the election, we can now take all of this to court to verify whether
if you think
really belongs.
Don't forget that there is a system.
Okay.
The card reader, the man already has a printed picture in the system.
Okay.
If it's not, excuse me, if it's not able to be brought out, the system will bring out the one that has already been in the INEC database. Okay. Then that one will be used to look at it.
To compare that.
To just compare
this person
to need.
Is indeed.
Then, of course, don't forget that generally the phone number will be there to confirm maybe is the person that is here or not. And of course, don't forget that his picture, his face too, is there.
He can even change phone number.
I agree, but if he cannot change his head.
Maybe what INEC can do...
Can he cut his head off?
No. What INEC can do as an addition is to say, okay, you have your PVC here. We'll take a photocopy of the PVC and attach to the incident form, in addition to your biometric.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Let's take a step further. 84 million registered voters. The figure is actually 4,084. So there's sort of 8484 in this figure. I don't know, some prophets will say that is significant. But 15 million more than the figure we had in 2015. The challenge now is that 8 million PVCs are yet to be collected. What's the issue with, non-collection of PVCs, and how relevant is this figure to the credibility of this exercise?
Well, I just hope INEC will top up its games, because I know I've interacted with them and they said that they are, since Monday till maybe upper Monday, people who have not collected their PVC, either those who have who asked for transfer and so on, all issues relating to that they should go to the places they register, that the PVCs are ready to be collected. I just want INEC to top up its game. If it's for them to add more hands to the activity or to the exercise, and for them to be patient with people, they should remember that they are working. People who want to vote leave their work, leave their business, sometimes travel far to get there, and it's quite discouraging that you go there and you don't get attended to, and you are told to come back. Obviously, that will even just discourage. And I want INEC to encourage people to vote. And the only way they can encourage people to vote is to elasticate their own activity, to ensure that they accommodate many people. One of the things I've observed is that some of their officers are a little bit, harsh. They are too upbeat against people.
That's right. We've had reports of officers being lackadaisical.
Yeah, that's where I'm going, that they should let them know that, no, this is public service, and you have to relate, and you have to calm down and take into consideration the stress some people. You can imagine somebody in the traffic like Lagos area now is spending about 3-4 hours to get to a point. And of course, you now ask you for simple instruction or simple questions, and you now hard on him or her. Obviously, one is there can be some altercation. Obviously, one is there can be some altercation in terms of exchange of words, or the person will go back and won't want to collect his PVC again.
The INEC chairman recently re-emphasized that these cards will not be gotten by proxy, that you have to be present to get that. The challenge, however, is the mass relocation of people, especially people in the IDPs. The last thing they will think about is the PVC. So we're hoping that if there will be replacement of those who have lost theirs over the years. But most importantly is also the fact that INEC says there is no change in the number of polling units, no change in the voting points, that it is the same as it was in 2015. So are we really making enough provision for the additional 15 million registered voters?
Well, let me start with the IDPs. I think INEC some time ago had to register people in the IDP camps so that they can participate in the election. And then when you talk about additional people, additional number of people that are registered, they're registered in different locations. And you expect that they go and vote in the locations where they were registered. Now, that shouldn't be any problem. Look, the fact that 84 million people registered does not mean 84 million people will vote. We have seen it. We have the data to back it all over the world, except for countries where voting is compulsory, like in Australia, in Belgium, in Peru, Bolivia, Egypt, and even the Democratic Republic of Congo, that you attain up to 93%. That's the highest so far we have seen in the world. But in other parts of the world, even in the United States, for instance, in recent times, the highest turnout of voters in 2008 for Barack Obama's election was 62%. In 2016, it dropped to 58%.
It appears pretty worse here.
Yeah,
in the previous election in 2015, close to 50 million registered voters did not vote.
That's what I'm saying.
The presidential election.
Because you're going to see more of it. There is this thinking that there's a group of people out there who believe that no matter how we vote, the outcome is already determined. And there are those who think that...
Even when the total number of vote cast do not amount to the number of people who did not show up at all.
That's what I'm saying. So what then happens is that we have a small group of Nigerians.
Minority
group. When you look at the total picture, determining who the leaders are. And the problem with that is that you then find the same people who did not participate in the electoral process to elect, then engage in a post-election activities and wanting to hold the feet of the elected people to the fire and say, look, you are our servants. So I think it is critical and it is very important that they go out there to cast their votes.
Mr. Oguade, it is apparent that majority of Nigerians have not been voting. And in previous elections, we've seen even more people in the registered voters not participating in that particular exercise. Do you expect things to change in 2019?
I don't expect things to change seriously, but it will change a bit. And why am I saying that is that because of the level of awareness now, some people, one way or the other, may be embittered or encouraged, depending on how they are about the system. Some people, they are getting off from the idea that, yeah, the elections don't matter. Either you go out to vote or not, they don't take that into consideration. And there are some people who, out of the fear of security or insecurity, but again, the combination of all these things will come to bear in the election. But where am I going? Is that indeed, in as much as all these factors are, you must be involved so as to have a sense of belonging. My brother said it some few seconds ago. Many people did not, and there are many, and of course, in my outings, whenever we monitor or observe elections, we found that it's the locals and the downtrodden or the local guys that are involved. The educated and the novel rich are not involved, except if one or two of them have interest that they see them come out. And of course, particularly if you want to just go to where we call the G areas, in quote now, areas of any part of Nigeria. You find out that the places are deserted on election day. Whereas when you go to the places that are that are densely populated, like let's say the Nyanyan, the Garuki, the Ajegunles, the Ageges, the Adeoyo areas, and people like that, areas like that, you find that the number of people are there who the voters are so overwhelming. Why? Because they are the downtrodden. They have something at stake. But the big guys, they just sit down. Unfortunately, they are the influencers. When after the election, they now do some post-mortem. And unfortunately, it's not in reality with us, it's on ground because they are not involved. And this is an opportunity for us to know that. For a long time, since democracy have started, we've been having a low voter turnout. Maybe the last election was, I guess, 38% of the total number of people who voted. And that is very poor. Who voted, not even who voted. Who voted. Right. So we must change that narrative.
Perhaps one of the biggest challenges that INEC has faced recently is vote buying. In Osun-Ekiti election, they tried some things, restructured the polling booths, ensure that voters will not enter the booths with their phones. Of course, they had a dedicated security operative. As we speak right now, INEC is also saying that it's going to have a rolled ballot paper. Now, the concern of many is how that would not lead to an increase in void votes. The INEC chairman recently said that they are going to work on the quality of ink, that there are certain quick dry ink. Can we go to bank with that?
I think so. Look, you know, I said earlier that no matter how good the system is, it takes those who operate it and those who use it to use it well and operate it well. No system on its own is perfect. Now, let's ask ourselves, who are the people buying the votes and who are the people selling the votes? The electorate are selling and the politicians are buying. Now, if you know the value of what you hold as your vote, that the good things of life you are asking for, the hospitals, the good roads, electricity, security, integrity in governance, they are all in that small, like a chip, carrying billions of information. The voter's card contains all these things, and you have self-value. You are not going to sell your card, okay? Because an average Nigerian politician is desperate for position. He wants to get there because he sees it as the easiest path to quick wealth and to honor and position in the society. So he's desperate. Now, why would the voter want to sell? Because the voter is in need. They have weaponized poverty and lack. And so he's lost a sense of self-value. And so he sees that the immediate gain as the way out of his problem. So he wants to sell, and these guys who knows better that, look, once we have that and we get into a position, we can triple or quadruple whatever we are spending on this guy now. So they are incentivized.
I'm concerned precisely about INEC's measures and the fact that if you have, for instance, a folding ballot paper. That is, at best, trying to manage vote buying at the point of voting.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen at the point of voting.
INEC itself, just recently said that politicians, active partisan actors are already, buying PVCs, getting voters' identification
Yeah,
number.
but how does INEC control what is not within its own purview? INEC produces the cards and they give to the voters. The voters are in custody. What they do with those cards, INEC cannot control. So what INEC can do, and what the politicians can do, and what all the citizens who occupy the office of the citizens of the country can do, is to go out there and let these people understand that you cannot continue to sell your destiny for a cheap plate of porridge.
All right, let me get
That's what INEC can
Mr.
do.
Ogwade's opinion about this. By collecting people's, the voters' identification numbers, the perception is that the system can be hacked into and that card readers somehow can be preluded ahead of election. How feasible, is this?
Sorry, there's nothing impossible with science. So, and of course, we've heard that it was done in some other climes. So its ability or the possibility of it being done here is possible. Well, I'm not concerned by that per se, because to all intents and purposes, we have our people. I won't divulge much, but what I know is that this election will be monitored more than the previous elections. There will be people who are on ground. And mostly, just as my brother has said again, all of us have a role and a duty to play to ensuring that Nigeria gets better. Is it forbidden that people come from all over the world to Nigeria for holidays? Is it forbidden for people to come all over the world for investment purposes? Is it forbidden for people to come from all over the world for one convention or business or the other? Why is it that Nigerians must go to Dubai now? Dubai was a valley, or was a desert before. So what the transformation that took place in Dubai can take place in Nigeria, and Nigeria has everything. All we need is just some little effort by the leaders. And that's why you and I come in terms of ensuring that we get the right leaders. And if anything at all, this is an opportunity for us to get it right. So selling our vote for for a pot of porridge or a plate of porridge cannot make this work. Let me just land this my argument. I crisscross Nigerian roads on a regular basis, and most of the time I see accident victims, but before you say you want to help them, till the time they get to the hospital for first aid in some cases, the life is gone or a limb is lost. Whereas in some other countries, all these things are there for the taking.
It's all right. We're going to take a break very quickly. There are unverified, information online that even during this Christmas, certain politicians ask prospective voters to come with their PVCs and then give them 30,000 naira. And then you begin to wonder what exactly politicians would want to do with those PVCs at this time. But we have more to look at when we return after this break. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on the program. We're looking at INEC's preparation ahead of the much talked about 2019 general election. The big question is how INEC is going to defeat vote buying. As we speak right now, we understand that certain partisan participants in this election are collecting phone numbers and bank details. And it's very interesting how INEC is going to catch someone, especially when you forward the money via a bank transaction. Gentlemen, thank you for staying the course on the program. INEC is also planning to keep close watch on campaign finance. And we've been talking about this for a while. They need to ensure that the money spent for campaigns are within, the guideline of the Electoral Act. INEC has designed a campaign finance reporting form to ensure compliance with reporting requirements by parties. So there's what they call the EC16C for annual finance reporting by parties. There's the EC16D for income and all of that. How effective do you think this really is in terms of policing finance before election? Let me begin with Mr. Tipa.
Good try by INEC, but how are they going to achieve that? Because you see, one of the problems we have here is how you monitor spending by political parties. And it's a lot easier when you monitor political parties alone. But the problem is you have free agents, non-party actors who spend more than even some political parties. For instance, if I, as a supporter of a political party, I'm such a wealthy man and have billions of dollars, and I'm going to spend that on behalf of the candidate of the party that I support, how does INEC monitor that? That's where the problem is. Now, this has been done in some other parts of the world, and it's created more problems. I don't know if you heard about the case of Citizen United, United States, where the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that some organizations or companies have the rights of human beings, including spending for political purposes. So you now have what they call the super PAC. The super PAC can go out and spend unlimitless amount of money on behalf of a candidate or political party. The only issue is they must not work in tandem with the parties. In other words, they don't have to communicate with the parties and say, this is where we're going to spend money on your behalf, this is what we're doing on your behalf. So INEC can monitor expenditure that are even recorded, because the political parties will spend so much money that they're not even going to record for INEC to see. So how does INEC monitor these things? The political parties have accounts. So INEC probably can look at the banks where they have their accounts and how monies are being
transferred,
moved out of for campaign purposes. But if the funds are not in the custody of the political parties, how does INEC monitor it? So that's where the problem is. But I think it's a good step in the right direction.
So we're looking at a situation where the Electoral Act already stipulates the minimum amount that an individual can donate, or maximum rather.
1 billion for presidential election.
That I'm even referring to the amount that a donor can give, to the party or the candidate, as it were. As there are some who would tell you that even the money expended at the point of acquiring the expression of interest and nomination form is way above all this amount of money we're talking about. But wouldn't this be too much responsibility for INEC, prognosing into the financial affairs of party, at the same time also preparing for an election?
No, there must be sanity. And of course, you agree with me that this election seems to be far, far cheaper and less financed like the previous elections, and particularly the 2014.
Can we be so sure yet? The election is still
no,
38
I mean,
days away.
this time they are in 2015 or 2015. Yeah, the whole town was awash with dollars and a lot of activities.
Maybe you are not where the dollars are being spent.
No. I'm involved in this thing, my brother.
Okay.
There is what we call mobilization. There's what we call contact. There's what we call logistics. Those are all the things that is used. And of course, don't forget how many adverts you two, as a media house, have you secured. By this time, the 2014, you two know how many adverts you have gotten, how many live coverage of election activities you have covered. And I'm sure those numbers are not pittance. They are big-time money. So how many have been taking place? Less than 38 days to the elections. You are talking to somebody who is involved in this for close to 20 years. So, my brother, this election, and of course, that's one of the things that we've been working on, that there must be a monitoring, there must the campaign and the funding of INEC, of political parties must be monitored, so that we don't resort to cheap, free money out to induce voters unnecessarily. Because, as you know, the voter mostly have been pulverized.
And you think INEC has the capacity to ensure this?
It's about law, it's just about, sorry, my brother, it's about engagement.
What happened to all other enforcement agencies?
No, we don't, look, there is no, the only thing that INEC, the major problem we may not say that INEC has now is about the power to prosecute. Because once somebody has been caught, all you need to do is now to hand over to the police. Will the police do the right job? And that's why one of the things that we want INEC to have that prosecutorial powers, that once somebody has been caught in this electoral misdemeanor, they prosecute them. If environmental, and one of our arguments is that sanitation inspectors they do prosecute. If sanitation inspector do prosecute in respect of matters relating to sanitation in the environment, then INEC must be given the power, because theirs is even larger, because we want to see if the system is not well arranged, if politicians get away with this big fraud of just buying votes and doing anything, they get to office, you can be sure that there won't be any good law.
Let me hold you for a minute and take this call from Ikeja. Good morning, Judge.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Lee, and good morning to the House.
Good morning.
The aspect of the subject matter I wish to talk about regards unwieldy number of political parties. I think INEC needs to reclassify the political parties. What I mean by that is that a political party should show strength before it is allowed to contest a particular election. If you have strength for only local government elections, you cannot go beyond that one until you show that you can win at least one local government. I look at the result of the Osun governorship election, where I think 25 or 26 parties participated. There was a party that scored 19 votes. So you begin to ask, does it mean that it has only 19 members in that state, or that their members voted for other political parties? So there is need for INEC to reclassify them to make sure that these ones who are just coming, perhaps some of them are just there to collect the INEC subsidy. And we should be serious. There's no way you can put 91 political parties on one sheet without causing problems for the average voter. That is the aspect I thought I should just talk about. Thank you.
You made your point precisely, Judge. And interestingly, even the party that had 19 votes will still sit down and wait for all of those votes to be counted. It keeps, it adds to the bureaucracy and the time spent in collation. But one thing, I'm taking us back to where we stopped. It's one thing to monitor the expenses, the expenditure, and the income of a party. It's another thing to prosecute electoral offenders, like Mr. Ogwade said earlier. We haven't seen much of that in recent time.
Yeah, and you see, it's going to be very difficult. Look, I understand the desire of INEC, but in practical terms, it's almost going to be impossible for them to monitor spending. We live in a country where cash is still king. With all the attempt by the regulatory authorities to ensure that, because you first of all have to be able to trace before you can punish. Okay? Now, let's look at the example of other countries.
Especially when all the big parties are found culpable.
Let's look at in a country where you move millions of dollars in cash moving around. But these things are easier to trace in countries where cash is not the king. Take, for instance, in the United States, for instance, both for primary and the general election, you are not allowed to give more than $2,700 per each election. So $5,400 for the primaries and general election, and it can be traced. You go to a place like France, about 35,000 people, 35 million people, raised 9 million euros for Emmanuel Macron in March election. And you have the record. So where is the record here? When I can simply walk into a political office
and drop a bag of cash.
And drop 1 million naira.
Let me take this call from Surulere. Good morning, Femi. Hello, Femi, are you there? Hello? I think there's a delay with that call.
Hello, good morning. Good morning to all of you.
Yeah, Femi's here. Please go ahead with your contribution.
So what I want to ask is this: is it compulsory that every time we want to, hear me? Every time we are going into we spend a lot of money. We spend a lot of money. We spend a lot of money doing voters registration. Is there no way that we can just have the population of Nigerians on a database? When you get to the age of voting, you can just go into any of these, collect your voter's card, instead of every time we spend billions of naira every year in circles of years saying we are doing voters registration. We spend a lot of money on that. But if you have a data of all Nigerians, You can just go walk into any of these offices, collect your data when you are ready. By the time you get to the age of 18, you just are entitled to go there, collect your PVC. Instead of every year, we continue to do voters registration. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution.
Let me ask, I think it's not going to be automatic. We've seen countries do it. You attain the age where you can vote.
We don't even seem to have a comprehensive database.
Yes, that's one.
Who is who in Nigeria.
But you know there are banks doing it. The banks doing that. My children that I opened savings account for, once they turn 18, the bank calls me and said, you are no longer the signatory to the account. We want to see the kid. And then I take them to the bank and they change. So the fact that banks can do it, speaks to the fact that it's possible, but we've not gotten to that stage in our evolution. And I think we should. It made a very critical point.
It's a pity, Mr. Guade, that for instance, I think it was the police who said they found some people who were not Nigerians, from Benin, Togo, who had PVCs. And then I was in the bank recently, and they were asking me for my bank address. And I was wondering, I thought you had my BVN. And they said, well, your BVN only has your name on it. And you're wondering if all of these data are not comprehensive, they're not even cohesive. If you have someone's BVN, for instance, you should be able to access all the information attached to that individual.
Well, just as the bank has told you, the information for the BVN is just for your thumbprint, your face, and maybe your name, that's all. It's not comprehensive as to add your local government, your status, and all and all and all. So that's for that. And my problem is that I guess the National Identity Management Card or National Boundary Commission, they have a whole lot of things to do, and that's about the leadership of those various government agencies. Once in a while, I do stray into neighboring countries, sometimes in the north, maybe.
You mean you literally stray?
I stray because there's no stress. Sometimes you don't know even stray because I don't know when I'm in another country's border.
Let me hold you very shortly
country.
to take this call from Makodi. Good morning, Uche.
Yeah, good morning, Ifemi, and good morning to your guests in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes, I think my own contribution towards the INEC preparation for 2019 election is something I want to just suggest that since we have six geopolitical zones in this country, why not then, deregister the political parties that is about 90-something to 6? Because I'm very sure that by next year, after this election or before 2023 election, the political parties may even rise up to 200, and of which some of these parties cannot even win a councillorship. So I'm of the opinion that the issue of, printing ballot paper that is even up to 2 pages is uncalled for. If we are one and we believe that this country is one, and they have divided the country into 6 geopolitical zones, why can't they, stick in that 6 geopolitical zones and have 6 political parties?
I think you made your point precisely, Uche. Thank you for your contribution. Unfortunately, we seem to have left that era where political parties are synonymous to geopolitical zones.
Let me just quickly close my thoughts on this issue of boundary and why we have so many non-indigenous have it. So, like I said, I stray. Our neighbors in the southwest here, the Benin Republic people, fortunately, the Eguns, they have them there, they have them here. They speak the same language. You go there, you don't know who is who. And of course, they can stray in. The electoral officer who is unfortunately foreign, who is not a local, once they see them, he registers them. The same thing in the north. There are either Hausas or Fulanis between Niger and Nigeria, between Chad and Nigeria. And of course, those in Bakassi, the Bakassis, that is Cameroon, and what's it now, Cross River people. The same thing, so all over Nigeria, just like that. And you can't take away the activities of the politician. They will bring them in, register them, and of course on election day, they are not going to be involved in elections in their country, so they will bring them in, and that's it. So there must be a whole lot of check by INEC on all these border communities along. That will reduce it. Then inside the country itself, the only way they can do it is through a lot of knowing your people, like you and I know you'll be a Nigerian. The way they can do it is through a lot of knowing your people, like you and I know you'll be a Nigerian. and of course, it is now somebody you don't know that, how. And that's why the time of checks, claims and objection, when they say the voters list is ready, you go there to look at those who have been registered. Are they in this community or not?
It's all right. INEC, you want to quickly react to something?
Yeah, I think what Uche said is practically impossible from the point of law and from the provisions of our Constitution. First and foremost, the 6 zones are not a creation of the Constitution. They're just a political creation. And number 2, you cannot restrict people
So the Constitution is clear on that.
To belong to a political party
simply because of where they live. Yeah.
Because of where they live.
And interestingly, with a lot of defection we have seen recently, you know, all of these parties seem to have
system
an
is fluid.
evenly distributed
in other countries,
participation.
In other countries where 2 political parties are
Let me take
outstanding.
Anthony very quickly. He's calling in from Kaduna. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, I enjoy listening to the program. And I agree with your 2 guests here. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay. The other caller was suggesting having 6 parties representing the 6 geopolitical zones. I think going by that arrangement, it will not form a nationalistic party arrangement. That is the same problem we had from our national leaders who only fought for independence. They never had a platform for Nigeria's successive development plans. So I think I may have a huge task because of the way our politicians are so interested in themselves than in Nigeria. There is nothing wrong in having just few parties if the aim is to really help in developing Nigeria, not to develop ourselves.
Thank you, Anthony, for your contribution on the program. Let's move on very quickly. INEC's perceived integrity, they say, is very key to the credibility of this election. So the coalition of united political parties are not quite impressed about the appointment of Amina Zakari as the head of the coalition center. They have the opinion that she's the president's niece. Of course, the INEC chairman precisely said she's from Jigawa, the president is from Kaduna. But then the dictionary meaning of the niece also seemed to, one way or the other, align with the position of the opposition. The fact that, well, according to the story we've heard, that the president's sister is married to Zakari's father and all of that. But how relevant really is this as we count down to a general election and where credibility is key?
Look, the most dangerous politicians you should fear are those who want to corrode our democratic infrastructure because they are afraid that they might not win. Let's look at the trajectory of Amina Zakari, first and foremost. Amina Zakari was brought into INEC by the PDP-led government. She has been reappointed by the current government. Amina Zakari has been in INEC for so many years. In some of the years that she had been there, President Muhammadu Buhari had contested the election and lost. Amina Zakari did not influence, and she couldn't influence the outcome of that election. Now, traditionally, when you say somebody is a niece, that is, the person is the daughter of your brother or your sister, right? That is the traditional meaning. So when they say Amina Zakari is the niece to the president,
you could also include the in-law. You know, the definition is two-faced, or so in two faces. But it's also very important to note here that according to, but we'll get there precisely. I understand we have a caller now from Kaduna. Good morning, Emeka. Oh, we lost that. Apologies, Emeka. Okay. We're going to have to
the
call.
point I'm making.
Get that call later, yes.
Have they told Nigerians the names of Amina's parents and the name of Buhari's relatives and how they are linked? And people are saying, oh, it's just, I heard Osita Chidoka, he said, why don't the federal government just ask Amina to drop out of the picture and the integrity is guaranteed?
But what is key here, let me hear Mr. Ogwade's position. What is key here is what the INEC chairman said, that our role as head of the collation center has nothing to do with the actual collation or announcement of results. It's just with the logistics in that particular center.
I'll just, because I'm engaging with you, I'll just use you for our viewers to see. You are here now as a moderator, and you know that you are in charge of this program, and now begin to want to take charge of this discussion. Will you allow that? Answer me now. No, don't mind that I'm a lawyer now, so I'm putting you in the box.
You are already taking my job now by asking me a question.
You see now?
There are 91 political parties.
No, you see where I'm going now? You see now? Where I'm going is that there's somebody who is the chairman of INEC. And the man has told, and that's what everyone wants to be in charge of his show. The man is in charge. He's the chief returning officer of the Federation. And a committee, definitely now, if you want to succeed, I've been involved in activities. If you want to succeed in anything, be it in church, be it in family, be it in groups or organizations, you set up people, committees to work, to give them assignments so that the thing is work. People be running up and down. So this lady is in charge of the committee that is to ensure that everything works down in the system.
And it doesn't mean that she's taking...
Well, she has nothing. She has no business for that.
Let's take a call very quickly because of time.
Okay, let me even ask you.
Yes.
If INEC will listen to the PDP and remove Azakari, and another political party comes tomorrow and say, look, we also don't like the INEC chairman himself, he must leave so that
Let's take Okorafo's call from Harochuku. Good morning, Okorafo.
Good morning, Mr. Adefemi, and good morning, our guests in the studio.
Thank you.
You see, thank God for the preparation of INEC thing. But the major issue I'm looking at is how will Nigerians identify a particular political party?
Good.
So in terms of their look, when printing, at least the voter delegation is still, although there's no time for now, but the National Education Agency and other should help a situation like this. Because today, because of a level of illiteracy, many Nigerians cannot identify a particular political party with their logo. It's a very big problem. In as much as we have some weeks to go, but there is something to be done now or never.
A very good point you have made there, Okorafo. Thank you very much for calling. Gentlemen, we have a short time to discuss quite a lot of issues, but INEC has expressed its concern about the ongoing ASU strike. The fact that many of its members...
The government has reached a deal with them, with the ASU. The strike they're going to call off the strike soon.
Well, that is still a probability. As we speak right now, the strike is on.
But ASU itself says that they are going to release their members
They're going to hold meetings. Yeah, they've said so.
For the election. So we have no problem with that.
And that doesn't appear to be a problem. As a wrap-up this morning, the issue of security was key in 2015 when the election had to be rescheduled. We seem to have some resurgence in the northeastern part of the country again. Do you consider this a threat?
I don't think that will be enough to reschedule some election. And I think security is everybody's business. We need to be sure that we can provide that atmosphere of peace and tranquility for people to go there and just cast their vote. This is not war. Election is about choices, just going out there to express a choice. So I don't think that the insecurity will be such to the extent that what happened in 2015 will reoccur.
Do you share his optimism?
Yeah, I share his optimism because definitely government will not want it to fall its hand, as they normally say it's in local palace. So definitely there's still time for government to work on it.
But ultimately that decision doesn't lie even in the hands of INEC.
No, it doesn't.
No.
This is government.
You know, I said
operatives that decides.
Government will work on it. But before I close, I just want the last caller to note that I'm sure he too is not on ground, because if somebody like that is talking that people don't know the logo, because I know politicians, they have a way, they know how to do their things. That logo, that's them now. For you to confirm what I'm saying, if you go on the street, you see each political party have its own a bigger logo, like a handbill that they send around to their members. That this is our logo, this is our logo, this is our logo, this is how you turn print. So that one, they do it. They may be doing it subtly.
There are 91 parties. I hope that there are no similar logos.
Obviously, there are no similar logos. Each one has its own logo.
Terrorists are very clever people. They have what they call the high-value season.
That's right.
They have to go down. High-value targets. They know that this is election period, and they want the world to hear more about them. There's going to be a resurgence in the activity. I think the military is ready to combat them So I think the issue of security...
Gentlemen, I must thank you very dearly for coming on the program today. Mr. Wale Ogunade, lawyer, President, Voter Awareness Initiatives. Mr. Kutis Adigba is a lawyer and public affairs analyst. It's been a great time.
Thank you.
Hearing your thoughts on
Thanks
this
for having
development.
us.
The elections is just a few days away. We're counting down, and I hope that you two are getting set to make your choice in this very all-important election. We'll be back tomorrow, God willing, with another exciting one. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. It's goodbye for now.
Thank you.